Okay, we're going to do a little recording for the Geometry 21st Century project. First thing we're going to do is take care of something that we'll need later on in the project, or will be very useful. By clicking on Data, if you do not have Data Analysis over here on the right, what I want you to do is go to File, Options, Add-ins, select Analysis Tool Pack, and say Go. At that point, if it's not already checked, which it probably isn't if you're following these steps, make sure Analysis Tool Pack is checked off and say OK. At that point, when you click on the Data tab, you'll now see Data Analysis at the top right. We'll come back to that later in this recording. Now for the airline reservation problem, we're going to assign to each of the 17 ticket buyers a random number between 1 to 10. So we select cell A1, click on the function key, the f of x key, and we type in the word random. As a result, saying go, we get ran between as one of the options. So we want to select the ran between function because we want to pick a number between 1 and 10. So the bottom number is 1, the larger number, or the top number is 10, and we'll say OK. And as you can see, a number between 1 and 10 was selected. It happened to be 1 right now. We want to do that for each of the 17 people purchasing a ticket for that first flight. So we just drag that bottom right-hand corner down, the darker square that is, and we just picked a random number for each of the 17 people. While that entire column is still selected, A1 through A17, we take that bottom right-hand corner, that little dark square, and we drag that across, and we want to simulate this for 50 flights. So that brings us up to column AX. And we just picked a random number for each of the 17 people for the first 50 flights by the airline. But every time we click any place on the screen and do something on any one cell, that random function is executed again. So we want to freeze those values. So to freeze the values, we go to Home and we copy, or you can hit Control-C to copy. And we don't want to just paste the value, we want to paste the value. So not just Control-V for paste, we want to paste values. So now what happens, as you can see on any one cell, is just a number, it's not a formula anymore, or a function. Next thing we want to do, in cell A18, we want to go to the function key. Now those numbers represent all of the possibilities that could happen. Any number between 1 and 9 means the person shows up for the flight. Anytime the number 10 shows up means they are a no-show the day of the flight. So we want to count how many did not show up. So we want a count if function. It's all one word, but if you type it as two separate words, Excel will still find it for you. The function, as you can see, is the first choice here, count if. We double-click that. In the range, we want to find out how many people did not show up for that first flight. So we highlight cells A1 through A17. Criteria is greater than 9, meaning anytime it's equal to 10. So you can type that in a couple of different ways. But we'll say OK. So as you can see, one person number 11, ticket buyer number 11, did not show up because they're the only ones with a 10. So we want to do that for each flight. So we take that bottom right-hand square of cell A18 and drag it all the way across up to column AX. And we just counted how many people did not show up for each individual flight. And you know what? I'm going to highlight that entire row and just have it stand out a little bit better by making it yellow so we can refer to that later on. So column A represents the people that purchased the ticket for the first flight, one of which is a 10, so therefore that's why the one down below. For the second flight, exactly 15 people are showing up because we have exactly 2 no-shows. Cell B4 and B12 are the 2 no-shows. The next flight, we had 0 no-shows, so that means we're overbooked. We had 2 extra people show up for the day of the flight. So what we're going to do next is to summarize all of this. So we're going to select a cell down below, and I'm going to type a 1 and a 2 in 2 cells. And now this is where we want to do the data analysis. And I'm going to select histogram and say OK. The input range for the histogram is going to be everything in the yellow row, so that's row 18, all the way up to column AX. The bin range is going to be the 1 and the 2 that I just typed in down below. So that's cell B20 and B21 as far as my chart is concerned. I want an output range, and I'm going to select cell C19. And I want to say chart output as well. And this will do the other part of the problem for us. By clicking continue, you can see I have a graph, a bar or column chart, and I have a frequency column. So the way in which you read this is the bin range means one or fewer people were no-shows for 28 of the flights. Exactly 2 people were no-shows for 10 of the 50 flights, and more than 2 were no-shows for 12 of the 50 flights, summarized in the histogram over to the right. We can format this to make it look a little bit better. Anytime either 0 or 1 occurred, that means the flight was overbooked. So I'm just going to type that in. Exactly 2 people being no-shows, that means the flight is full, 15 passengers for the 15 seats. If more than 2 people did not show up, then the flight left partially empty. We had empty seats. So in formatting this, I just clicked on the 1, 2, or more down below, and I'm going to right-click on that, and I'm going to select data, and I want to format the horizontal axis labels. So I'm going to select edit, and I don't want the 1, 2, and more showing up. I want the overbooked, full, and empty cells showing up. So I'll say OK and OK again, and as you can see, the histogram now is easier to read. I can see the tallest column is when it was overbooked. That happened to be 28 out of 50 times. For my data, yours will be different because we both use the ran between function. It was exactly full 10 out of the 50 tries and empty for 12 of the 50 flights. Now, the problem also says you can insert a pie graph, so we'll select the column, the 28, 10, and 12, and we'll select a pie chart, and we have a pie chart to summarize the same data. Now you can right-click and add data labels. We can right-click and format data labels, meaning we can include, say, the category name. We don't necessarily need the value, and I like to include the percentage as well. And I'd also like to format this 1, 2, and 3 so that it reads overbooked, full, and empty like the histogram or column chart. So I'll say edit, and I'll select the overbooked, full, and empty values and say OK. And now we have a nice little pie chart. Where by looking at the pie chart, you can see over half of my pie chart indicates we're overbooked for 56% of the flights, full for 20%, and at least one empty seat for 24% of the flights. Hope all of this helped. As Mr. Fooch says, pat yourself on the back. So